Well, thank you. I was told to hug the microphone. Well, good morning again. And it's just nice. Well, it's more than nice to be amongst people who never gave up. You've been to so many churches, and we will graciously say outgrew them and ended up here. So when we say welcome, we really mean it, and keep on your spiritual journey. So thank you so much for being here. Um, Father's Day started in 1910 in Washington State by a lady, Sonia Dobbs. And it kind of stayed localized in that area, can you believe, until 1972, when it finally became a national holiday. So we finally got our holiday, guys. um, I got real lucky this time around with a father. He's the guy that showed up every day to one of my sports games, even though like the football games were 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He was there up in the stands, sometimes by himself. Dad, how'd you work that out? I just worked it out. And he was kind of cute. On Mother's Day, he would call me up and wish me happy Mother's Day. And I'm going, what's going on? He said, well, you're a single parent now, so you're both the father and the mother. So happy Mother's Day. So to all you mothers who've been single parents, happy Father's Day. He was in World War II, of course, second wave on Normandy Beach. um, I'm lucky I'm here at all. When he was stationed in France, he and another fellow started a nightclub for enlisted men because they couldn't go in the officers' club. The officers' club, of course, wouldn't let the enlisted men in. And he said, that's no problem. We'll start our own. So they met a farmer who buried all his wine cellar in the fields so the Nazis wouldn't get him. And the farmer needed tires. Well, they didn't have any tires to fit, so they just took the tire and the wheel off of the Jeep and welded them onto his car. Needless to say, they had plenty of wine, and he sent all of his money back home so he'd have a little nest egg when he got here. He got home, all the money was gone. I said, what happened? He said, I guess my family just needed it to live on. Okay, today is imagining the good. It's not so hard to do, but the opposite is a problem, imagining what's not so good. Because imagination is somewhat like a double-edged sword. You can either imagine good or imagine terrible things that happen. My personal experience is the most terrible things that ever happen just happen in your mind. They don't always happen in real life. That's not always true, but I think the majority of time it just happens. Um, and we all have stories. We all have things that have happened to us that were difficult things to live through. And if there's any good news about those, we hopefully learn from them. We learn from them if they're my parents, our siblings, ourself, our family. And a few things we learn is it builds character, if nothing else. And it builds compassion and understanding more than we had before. Those are definitely good things to increase. And hopefully, when we're imagining those good things, we get that nudge from our spark of divinity that is in our consciousness. I don't know if it is in a particular area of the body. A lot of people seem to think it's in the heart area. I'll go with that. I like it. It's good. So you learn an awful lot by the stories that you overcome, or maybe even now just overcoming. So in your Rancha book, there's a phrase, the greatest affliction in the universe is never to have been afflicted. That didn't seem real fair. But I think since we often mostly learn from afflictions and difficulties that we have, we learn those things I just talked about. It makes some sense. We certainly don't sit on the couch watching Netflix and learn a whole bunch while drinking tea. So getting ourselves together to be helpful to other people is a really important thing. If it were separate pages, it'd be worse. Okay. So the imagination is a difficult thing to control. I think that's part of the crux of the talk today is taking that imagination and really making it work for you for good and thinking about the good things that are going to happen. We seem to have our imagination go, especially with things in the future. We're going to have a meeting, we're going to go for a job interview, and all of a sudden that imagination can go, uh-oh, I wonder what, and then it starts to go downhill. I think it's just a habit to let your imagination kind of go away with you instead of taking charge and having your imagination think of the good things that might be possible. And I know in my particular case, when I do that, I act like the things that are going to be good. I'm not so concerned and worried because most likely things don't go like my imagination, my negative part of the imagination thinks about. Think about the good things that are going to happen. And we always want to keep in mind that spark of divinity and have that give us a little nudge in our imagination, that still small voice deep inside. So pay attention. There are three aspects of God. There's a lot more, but there's three of them that are especially important, I think, to think about. There's truth, there's beauty, and there's goodness. Beauty is really easy to explain, not the only way, but just look at nature. Look at the beauty of the trees and the flowers and the nature, the landscapes. It's just gorgeous. Goodness for me is people helping people. I think that's really a good sign of goodness. We had, uh, that was put to the test for me. Wednesday morning, about 6 o'clock, somebody's at the back door ringing the doorbell. I'm like, what the blank? We normally get up at 6:30 and meditate anyway, so it wasn't so off. So Evie opens the door and I'm getting dressed, and there's this gal from the reservation who's been out all night, and now she doesn't have a way home. She doesn't have a car. Somebody just, for some reason, we didn't know, let her off. And she's been wandering around or sleeping at night under the bridge. She said, I need to charge up my phone. Okay, makes sense. But she didn't have a charging thing to plug in. So, of course, I just went and got a phone. That's the easiest solution, that is. And then we started giving her some coffee and an apple and some light breakfast. And long around 5 minutes to 7, we're getting ready to meditate no matter what. So we take her in the living room and set her on the couch and do our meditation. Listen, hardly anything interrupts that, including strangers. So she sat there. She actually said she felt better after the meditation. So I was glad for that. And she said she wanted to, her phone got charged up because we had a cord that worked. So it was charged up enough to be workable. She said she wanted to go to the Y. So Evie was going to take her before her appointment. But as it turned out, she just declined the offer and walked out the back door. So we could be as helpful as she would let us, but not trying to force our will upon her to be so helpful. She felt uncomfortable. So that was definitely an example of people helping people. And I thought, I guess I guess that's probably pretty close to true as I'm going to talk about it today. Okay, the last one is truth. There's a real nice story that illustrates truth. And like most parables, I think it doesn't need explaining because you can put your own interpretation on it. Imagine, whoops, um, today's topic. Imagine a caveman, just his face, just looking terrible. He's just got murder in his eyes. He's just ready to kill. He's got a big stick in his hand, and the camera pulls back, and there's a saber-toothed tiger in front of them. So all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that looks appropriate. Okay, so there's a saber-toothed tiger snarling at him, and the camera pulls back a little bit farther, and you see behind him his mate and his two children in the mouth of a cave. There you go. You can make of it as you will. Goodness, truly it can be said, the master went about doing good. So I think that's a pretty good example of what we should try to do. And I think the big thing is, for me, is to just remember about that spark of divinity. So many times we get so involved in life itself, we just forget that there's a part of the universal infinite God wanting and willing to help. I think all we have to do is have the intention and remember that it's there. I know it's difficult to remember when some bozo pulls out in front of you in the car, like happened last week. And fortunately for me, the window was closed. And I couldn't stick out my hand. So just for that brief moment, I forgot. And Evie honked the horn, and I just looked at her and said, thanks. Okay. So keep working on your spiritual quest, your spiritual progress. Don't give up. No matter how you think it's going to go, don't give up. Just keep going. And my own personal recommendation is don't judge how you're doing. Just do it. Don't take, there are other beings, other people that judge how you're doing. Well, think about it. Okay, that's long enough. Don't think anymore. That is really what's happening, you know. I mean, we're not going to all show up at the gates and talk with St. Peter, and he's not going to open up his book, I'm told. But don't worry about your spiritual growth. Just keep working at it. Just don't give up. And I'm also gladdened in this group that a vast majority of you have other spiritual practices besides unity. I won't name names. But they do. Some people go out of state or country. Other people have listening to meditations and readings in the middle of the week. And I think all of that's good. I don't think one particular tradition has all the answers. I think there's answers in every spiritual tradition because God is so big and vast. Not one tradition can have a handle on it all. But for me, unity was the very, very closest to what I feel and believe. So we're here after a trek around unity, checking out a few different traditions. Okay, so I think I can't see the clock, but I think it's about time for a minor, small meditation. When I first learned to meditate was back in the 70s. And some of you may have heard of this guy, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And his meditation was, I think, like a yoga meditation where you sit quietly and repeated a mantra over and over. And I would often do that at the music store and drive home. And my first wife would look at me and say, "You meditated, didn't you?" So it had to be working. So what we're going to do, we're not going to do a mantra. We're going to sit quietly, close your eyes if you feel comfortable, and just pay attention to your breathing. Okay, breathe in and breathe out. That's going to be your physical mantra. And as you do that, you're going to relax more and more. And yep, you're going to hear sounds. Most likely, someone's going to cough. Someone's going to sneeze. Definitely, there's a car driving by. But when you hear those sounds, it's just going to remind you to be more relaxed and more relaxed. Keep breathing and notice the breath coming in your lungs, breathing out at your own rate, at your own tempo. And we'll be quiet for just a minute. And remember, Okay, slowly open your eyes. Maybe rub your face and come on back. Oh, it works for me anyway. Making attention to your breathing. So I think we have now the prayer for protection. Okay. So, ready? The light of God surrounds us. They are the light. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love. The power of God protects us. We are the power. And the presence of God watches over us. Where you are, God. Wherever you are, God is, and all is well. We are one.